Hello, and a warm welcome to special reports on Agricultural Research Council of Nigerian Television, Mabushi Abuja. I am Joshua Ishaya. Our special report is on the 18th edition of the City Mail International Magazine Lecture and Award Ceremony, which focused on the menace of insecurity and governance and climate change in Nigeria. The City Mail Lecture and Award Ceremony started with a welcome address by the convener, Princess Anita Omeweni, who shared the rationale behind the award and lecture. She also gave a warm welcome to keynote speakers and guests.
City Mail International Magazine. My debt's gratitude is unimaginable right now. Thank you all for coming once again and honoring our invitation. Indeed, today being 30th of January marks a defining milestone and a blessed journey in my life and in our lives as a people. Besides, I strongly believe that after today's lecture, a new Nigeria would emerge, and that, of course, is what this is all about. Check out the quality of people in this place, highly cerebral and resourceful people who have in this hall today. Permit me to say, the most intelligent people in Nigeria. An applaud, please, because it's not easy. The topic we have at hand, which is the menace of security, governance, and climate change, is a very apt and germane, and that is what we need right now as a people and a country. The earlier we start talking about positive change, better for us all. This is my reason and my team members. This is the reason why myself and my team members, comprising of Alhaji Aide Shuaga, prominent and powerful NTA personality, as the chairman of the planning committee, followed by Honorable Alikali Buka Alibe, a highly reverend and resourceful personality, Princess Adeze Olisa Elo, and Sharon came together to pick this topic for the development of our dearest country, Nigeria. I want you all to know this day that Nigeria is truly an exceptional, blessed, and endowed nation, and the best in the world. Our country is divinely endowed with several mineral resources you can't find anywhere in the world. I can tell you that. I've been privileged to travel up to 23 countries of the world. I can tell you we're indeed blessed. We're indeed endowed. I can tell you. My reason of being here is because I want to be part of the change of this country. Because when I travel outside the country, I see what is happening there. Finland, example, what do they have? Nothing, just timber wood. And they're living comfortable. Here we have so much more, but yet people are suffering. I want you all to know today that Nigeria is exceptionally blessed. Therefore, permit me to tell a story. When I first completed my program, youth service, then I took my leave to United States of America. My friends over there, they tried everything possibly to keep me. They got a job for me. They wanted me to stay. I said, no, I'm going back home. They never believe it. From Raleigh to Jacksonville, from there, I came back to this country because I want to be part of the change. That is exactly what we're doing here today. So I want you to know, wherever you are, don't ever think less about yourself, especially when you find yourself outside the shores of this country. Don't ever think less. We're endowed. We should be proud to be a Nigerian.
Chairman of the occasion, General IBM Haruna, former Federal Commissioner for Information, Culture, welcomed speakers and declared the event open.
I am honored to be invited to chair an important occasion like this and a very important topic. But I must say, while I'm privileged to hear the contributors and the professors on this topic, I must confess that one of my gains in being the chairman of this occasion is to unravel the topic to be discussed from the perspective and input from such knowledgeable people who are here to make their contributions. I must say that after the military service, I have been on the rolls of the Supreme Court as an advocate for 42 years. I am now deservedly considered as an old man. Our voices shiver, our walking is unsteady. We can't run and jump like before. But luckily, there's one game I can still play on a cart. It's called golf. And most of the physicians advise that at this age I must take exercise. And the first chosen one is to take a walk. And I must say, even that, I'm finding difficulty, to do so. But I'm consoled, because in my religion, some verses of the Quran said, you are young, people bring you to the world, they teach you to live the world, and when you get to a certain age and you are privileged, you will go back and you may need to be assisted to walk and even look after your health. So I am privileged to be here and to address people who are knowledgeable in the things of our world today and in our desire to bring about a future world that is comfortable and convenient as what we will bequeath to our successive generations. Looking at the topic, the menace of insecurity. I'm glad I read it from here, because reading on the board, I see the menace of security. So I think I came with the mind that we will be discussing the menace of insecurity. Although we must also recognize that security, on the other reverse, also causes its own insecurity or the feelings of it. But what we are more concerned with in respect to finding good government is to be able to contrast with bad government, which brings about insecurity. Good government is what we seek for. And good government is what has been enacted for us to pursue by our Constitution and by our laws. Good government is all we seek for the purposes of finding the purposes and destination of our lives and meaning and purposes. And therefore, our challenge rests in ensuring that there is security. And that means avoiding insecurity. And in doing that, we look back to where we are coming from. We read the barbaric past, the enslavement, the denial of fundamental rights, the non-recognition of humanity. All this we have traversed, and we are still struggling in order to ensure that we have good government. In other words, avoidance of insecurity. This is the challenge. I am privileged to be part of this discussion, and I am sure that by the time we leave here, we will be glad to receive awards the second leg of our endeavor today. I thank you for the privilege given to me to chair this occasion, and I say welcome and good wishes to all who have come to attend this lecture and award series.
Keynote speaker and pioneer Vice Chancellor, Sokoto State University, former Vice Chancellor, University of Abuja, Professor Nuhu Yakub, said he slightly changed the topic of the lecture to address the major issue bedeviling the country, which is insecurity.
To speak to the topic, the menace of insecurity. That's what also I got before I came here. So I still maintain insecurity. Governance and climate change in Nigeria. But I have to, with due respect, inform the organizers that instead of speaking to the topic as it was sent to me, I made a slight change to it. And I said, the menace of bad, in bracket, democratic governance, insecurity, and climate change. And why I have done this is to assume that the major issue in the national narrative now is insecurity and climate change. And I'm also thinking that the bad governance, and I'm using this word, with all sense of responsibility. Maybe the bad governance we have been having in this country may be responsible for particularly insecurity, and to a certain extent also, especially in terms of the consequence of the climate change in this country. So I hope that the organizers will allow me to go on the way I have organized my thoughts based on the slight amendment I have made. In this presentation, we intend to argue that the insecurity in Nigerian polity is a result of bad governance to a very large extent. Even climate change, especially in its consequential impacts, is also a palpable, is also palpably attributable to bad governance subsisting in bad polity. We are indeed prepared to accept that climate change is scientifically accepted to have been caused by human intervention all over the world. It's not just in Nigeria. So we have to organize our existential perspectives so that we can actually overcome the challenges posed to us, or the menace posed to us by climate change. As I said, this presentation starts by explaining the menace, these three variables by definition. And I intend to do this very comprehensively. And I start with the issue of governance, the concept of governance. The word is the noun form of to govern, which is defined by the Dictionary of Government and Politics, published in 1988 on page 93, as, and I quote, to rule or control a country, unquote. It is also understood to mean, quote, to control or to influence, unquote. The new International Webster's Comprehensive Dictionary of the English Language, which is very encyclopedic, it's over 1,000 pages, On page 546, defines governance to mean, and I quote, exercise of authority, direction, control, manner or system of government or regulation, unquote. The concept of governance can be qualified, as we have already argued, by either prefacing it with the adjectival word good or democratic, or simply bad government. To arrive at this point of describing governance, a governance system as good, it has to be conceived as, and I quote, a form of government in which the power to govern is derived from the people, either by direct referendum, which is direct democracy, or by means of elected representatives of the people, which is representative democracy. The scholar that defined it this way, Professor Nwego, who was one time Vice Chancellor of the University of Abia State University, goes further to define democratic governance as, and I quote, this is going to be an extensive quotation, the hallmark of a true democracy which is ruled by the consent of the people, which must be determined by their affirmative and votes in a free, fair, and credible election in accordance with the constitution of the country, which in itself must have been a product of a democratic governance. Furthermore, he describes democratic governance as referring to good governance. Democratic governance emanates from a legitimate government that does not act arbitrarily, but manages a country's economic and social resources in a transparent, accountable, and responsive manner to achieve developmental goals. It implies the democratic use of political, economic, and administrative powers at all levels of government to deal appropriately with the problems facing a country. Democratic government is therefore a government that promotes participation and inclusivity and operates within constitutional constraints at all times of governance, be it local, state, national, or international. I still continue with the quotation of the definition of democratic governance. He says, the concept of democratic governance is so used interchangeably with the concept of good governance to describe the paradigm of an ideal democratic government. That is a government that is democratic, capable or effective, and accordingly able to deliver in its mandate of satisfying the needs of the people. Consequently, the word good in governance connotes the proper exercise of authority and prudent management of resources and respect for the rule of law in accordance to lay down principles for the benefit of all in society. I've taken this much time to comprehensively define what is democratic or good governance. Because as I said in my introductory remarks, if we are having problem of insecurity, we want to make reference to the kind of governance system we have in the country. And as far as I'm concerned, and as a political scientist, I believe that what we have been having since 1999 to date is not democratic. Nobody should be deceived. But of course, we are all very gullible in accepting that, oh, we have democracy. No. Why would I say we don't have democracy? Let me give you samples of the signs of undemocratic governance we have in the country. One, violence characterizing most, if not all, the elections since 1999 to date. It's either the opponents are being chased out of the polling station, polling unit, yes. Or you discover that ballot papers have been doctored, ballot boxes have been snatched, fake results are being declared, money will be exchanging hands, attempts may be made by an incumbent president to illegally amend the Constitution in order to extend his tenure. Forceful removal of a Chief Justice without recourse to the involvement of the National Judicial Council, whose responsibility it is to handle misdemeanors in the judicial branch. We also have evidence of President traveling out of this country for not less than 2 weeks without transmitting any notice to the Legislative National Assembly as to who will look after the affairs of the country. And everybody just assume he can do whatever he likes. No, that is the dictatorship that is also being displayed or demonstrated. Or you have a situation where there are manipulations of the executive by the executive branch to dethrone gubernatorial leaders in the states. We witnessed this in Oyo, when Ladoja was, the members of the House of Assembly in the state, were marooned somewhere and motivated to impeach him. We have also seen what happened to Darie in Plateau State, and so on and so forth. The state is being literally taken over as it has become the private property of the governors in such states. Look at virtually all the states in this country. The governor is the alpha and omega. Whatever they say will be the regulation, not what is in the Constitution or what the law provides for. Then you have very humongous corruption at all levels of governance: executive, legislative, and judiciary. And what is most painful when you have a situation of this nature is the fact that nothing is done. We've just gone through the experience of one individual corruptly enriching himself to the tune of 109 billion naira. And the gentleman is living very comfortably in his house, even though they say he's on bail. But at the end of the day, what we may have is that the case has died a natural death. So we are not having, democracy. Then you have also incompetence of the rulers in governance. Former governors of Plateau, as I said, and Taraba, being jailed because of homologous corruption. Some other governors are still also having their own cases pending in various courts, in various jurisdictions of the court system. Then, of course, we have the state of insecurity in the country. Because of these inanities, we are correct to demand or to define that the variable of governance should be qualified to know what type of governance we are concerned with, in terms of also how and why the key variables in the topic of this presentation could be properly focused on. Because the governance system in Nigeria is very, very bad, we are saddled with the phenomenon of insurgency and the worsening effects of climate change. I'll come back to the issue of climate change shortly, but I just want to also draw our attention to the fact that when we talk about insecurity, we have to, first of all, know what we're talking about. Or even if you use the positive aspect of the word, that is security. Because as we all know, even the Constitution, Section 4 or 2 of the Constitution says the security of the Nigerian people is the major responsibility of government. In other words, we reserve the right to go to bed every day with our two eyes closed. Well, that is not the case. You sleep in your house, you have to open one eye, if not the two eyes, so that you know, or you will monitor, the footsteps of, hooligans or hoodlums that may be coming to your house to attack you. Or you are going on the road, or particularly the highways. You are not sure if you are going to get to your destination safely. Or what have you found out? It's only in this country I have seen a situation where rail lines could be attacked. Not that there is, what do they call the incident that happened in Buhari 2 days ago? Derailment. Not that there's derailment, but railways that they go at very high speed, and somebody will be afraid to even go near. Indeed, when I studied in England, the rail lines, in fact, the rail lines is electrified, and nobody will dare. And that's why they also barricade the lines. Animals will not go there, nor human beings. But here in Nigeria, we have found a situation where a railway, going from Abuja to Kaduna was attacked, and for quite some months in this country, people could not go to Kaduna by rail. And the bandits that did this, they did it on purpose, because they knew that most people at that point in time would not also want to go by road. It's not secure. And then people may not even have the means, if the safest means of transport would be to go by air. I had a terrible experience sometimes last year. I had to go to Kaduna from Abuja here. What I did was to fly to Kano first. And then from Kano, I had to come by road, which I was afraid of going through from Abuja directly to Kaduna. In the end, I spent more money. In the end, I didn't enjoy my journey. Because even the vehicle that I took from Kano to Kaduna, we were many in the car, and it was not comfortable. The same thing on my way back, I had to go through Kano again to take a flight to Abuja. So the problem we have, therefore, is that we will have to interrogate this kind of experience. It is not acceptable. If you live in a democratic society, you live in peace, you live in tranquility, and you live in the understanding that the government that you put to empower will act responsibly. as I'm saying all this, there is somebody who is supposed to take care of our security on the roads, in our homes, at places of work. Yet, these responsibilities are not being addressed or handled very effectively. And yet, people will come here and say, or go about and say, we have democracy. Forget it, we don't have any democracy. So, what do we understand by insecurity? Still retaining the original topic that was sent to me. Insecurity is defined by the Webster's dictionary as, and I quote, the condition of being unsafe, liability to injury, loss or failure, uncertainty, instability. This is on page 655 of the dictionary that I referred to. So we are actually in this country faced with a very serious existential problem. How can you be in your home? As I said earlier, you cannot close your eyes if you want to sleep. How can you be in your house? In fact, there was an incident that somebody narrated a long time ago, that somebody built a house in Lagos because of insecurity. There is a gate that is already has already been built to even deter people from making attempts to fraudulently or to come and cause mayhem in the house. That is not enough. After the man has come home, and it's time to go to sleep, to approach the building now, there is a barricade. The door to the entrance has to be, you have to use metals to secure it, padlock it, go on to lock the door, and then that was not enough. This building is a duplex. The gentleman to go to the first floor. Before to climb the staircase, there is another barricade. And then when the gentleman is able to get to the first floor, the door there also has to be barricaded. And somebody said, what of in case of emergency? There is fire outbreak. What is going to happen? And the gentleman said, I think sometimes some of us, we go crazy. We don't even think. That if it is the property in the house you want to secure, why don't you put everything in one room and lock it up? In case of emergency. Because we are not safe with everywhere barricaded. This is our reality in this country now. And it is a very dangerous way. I have stayed, and I've gone to very many countries, both in Asia and in North America and also in Europe. I have never seen where the white man will barricade themselves like I'm describing. Because they know that the state is there and has taken care of, the security of both his property and himself. This is what we don't have in this country. So based on the foregoing analysis, the standpoint of this presentation is that bad governance is responsible for insecurity, and to a certain extent, especially of its consequence to also climate change. We have bad governance. And where you have bad governance, please don't make the mistake of referring to that system as democratic. Insecurity in the polity has been perpetrated by various groups, namely terrorists, insurgents, kidnappers, armed bandits, political thugs. And I go on to describe each of this class of people, or class of people in the country. A terrorist is a member of a gang who are seen to be carrying out terrorism. And the dictionary describes terrorism, or define it as, and I quote, the act of terrorizing a system of government that seeks to rule by intimidation. I sometimes even ask myself, are we still under military dictatorship? Or is it true that we are practicing democracy? Ab initio, I have defined that there's no democracy. But if we have no democracy, and somebody claimed that they came to power through election, why should they even attempt to have aspects of dictatorship? That is the question that we need to be asking those who consider themselves to be our rulers. Terrorism is an unlawful act of violence committed in an organized attempt to overthrow a government. I think it's, the dictionary actually made reference to the period of the Tsar dynasty in the old Russia. Terrorists were actually either, assembled to protect the government, and it became a norm, which has spread to other places. And what we get in the end is that it's not only the government that is being protected, but the citizens are being exposed to danger. And that is why terrorism or terrorists should not be considered our friends. The other concept that we use to describe our existential condition now is to say insurgency or insurgent. And the dictionary defines an insurgent as one who is rebellious. He or she is also, and I quote, one who takes part in active and forcible opposition or resistance to the constituted authorities. So it may be that insurgency we're witnessing in this country is actually an attempt to oppose the government that is supposed to be constituted on the basis of democratic politics. People are tired, people are annoyed, people are not happy. The welfare of people is being compromised. So people have to, you now have people, you may call them insurgents, you may call them hooligans or hoodlums. That's your own palaver. But they also want to find a way to exist. So it's like a catch-22 situation for all of us, for government and for the citizenry. Then we also have, in the category of the crisis of insecurity we have in this country, a kidnapper. And this one is described as somebody who is involved in acts of kidnapping. To kidnap is to seize and carry off someone by force or fraud, usually so as to demand a ransom. While a bandit is a highwayman brigand. An armed bandit is determined to rob, kill, whether or not there is some form of resistance. Then political thug, or a thug was formerly seen as one of an organization of religious professional assassins in northern India. And the meaning of a thug is also any cutthroat assassin, a ruffian and swindler. In Nigeria, things are a necessary accompaniment. Thugs are a necessary accompaniment to the politicians. They accompany the political leader and carry out assignments, no matter how dastardly, for a pay. So the failure of governance, especially since the commencement of the Fourth Republic, has made these socially undesirable elements to call the shots in the country. Those involved in these heinous activities have transformed this despicable source of livelihood to one who have made social relationships very unedifying, and they are truly ones who have made politics and statehood a nagging phenomenon for both rulers and the followership in this country. They are the real menace in society. One would have been happier if their nefarious activities are only directed at the so-called rulers who have knowingly or unknowingly helped them to make the phenomenon a major concern to our existence. But we really need to address, the crisis of insurgency or of insecurity. With climate change, I just want to quickly rush, since my time is up, to emphasize the point that this climate change is not only the problem of Nigeria, it's a global phenomenon. And the United Nations and other agencies, global agencies and governments, have also tried to come in with protocols. Several protocols have actually been put up by the United Nations. But the expression of climate change is manifested through such things as hurricanes, droughts, wildfires, heat waves, desertification, and flooding. And in the case of flooding, which we have been experiencing in this country, I said earlier that the issue of climate change is also partly caused by government, in the sense that we have not been able to adequately change the life of the people for better. People have to trek hundreds of some kilometers to get to go and fell trees. They come and use as firewood in the house, and that is contributing to the heat we are getting in society. And the consequence of this is that we are having, last year in particular, and the year before the last, we had flooding in this country. And last year we were expecting that the various governors in this country and the national government will have taken note of this and prepare to avoid it. So what we now have is a situation in which many people died, many people lost their homes, many people lost their farmlands, and that problem of climate change has made the people to go deeper and deeper into poverty. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the point I just want to stress here is that we should all try and work hard to establish a democratic government.
Professor Nuri Yakubu, Elder Ayokule Fagbemi, Dr. Isiaka Dele, Mrs. Patience Eluma. One of the major highlights of the occasion was the award presentation to notable Nigerians who have contributed immensely in promoting peace in the country.
Governance services delivery, particularly as it pertains to the management of security, but because he had spent a great deal of time dealing with the theme and the sub-theme of security, I'll attempt to dovetail into climate change. When you're discussing climate change, we always tend to forget the fact that in Nigeria, we flare gas like no man's business. The flaring of gas, as of last known data, for 2021, we actually flared 6.63 billion cubic meters of gas. 6.63 cubic meters of gas, amounting to a loss of revenue of over $761.1 million US dollars. When you put it in perspective, and connect with the most known element of climate change dynamics that we discuss in the Nigerian state, and that is the use of firewood for fueling and domestic use, which tend to underscore the deforestation dynamics of the Nigerian state at the level of climate change. You will discover that the loss in terms of gas flaring, which ordinarily ought to have been converted to domestic gas for cooking and all other dynamics, and the powering of our vehicles in such a way that we could have good source of energy, clean energy, if I may say, has brought out one major thing, and that is that the governance services delivery of the Nigerian state is incoherent. It is not holistic, it is not integrated, more so that whereas the primary responsibility of government is the development, welfare, and well-being of the citizenry and their security.
I believe that insecurity is necessarily a part of every human society, tracing from the evolution of the modern state system. One could find that State of Nature by Thomas Hobbes was that the society where life was short, brutish, and nasty, then the theory of West Frame therefore assumed that unless and until mankind willingly or foolingly chooses to surrender to certain aspects of his liberty and personal independence to a committee that is referred to as a state, life will be meaningless and tragical. The essence of the modern state system, therefore, is to ensure that sanity of life may be that of properties. Human beings choose to surrender to some critical aspect of personal privilege and liberty to achieve security in return. Security is therefore central to the modern state system. Little wonder is to say that any state that fails to guarantee the sanity life of its citizen is a failed state. And what do you call a failed state? I do ask the question, what is a failed state? Some people say Nigeria is a failed state. I say we are not a failed state yet. We are heading towards a failed state. And I want to make it clear on my own that a failed state is a situation where the government is no longer in control of its arm, or the citizen, they are in the position of the instrument of violence. You call that state a failed state. Example of that we can call Somalia and Mali. We classify them as a failed state.
I am pleased to be receiving this award alongside other deserving patrons, especially other former first ladies who are also awardees. It is instructive that this year, City Mail is honoring many distinguished mothers of the nation. This is good because we are at a stage in our nation where we need the wisdom, skill, and appeal of mothers in order to bring peace and prosperity to our land. I always say that where there is a woman, there is peace. And where there is peace, there is progress and prosperity. We, the women, are critical stakeholders in the nation's development process, for which we should make our significant contributions with grace, unity, and harmony, as we all seek to build a just and progressive society. We are the ones with the natural gift to serve as the conscience of the nation, and we have the capacity to position Nigeria in the right direction. As we prepare for 2022 elections, it is our duty as mothers to appeal to our fathers, husbands, children, to give peace a chance and create the environment that will enable free, fair elections and peaceful transitions. When I was a serving First Lady, I established the Women for Change and Development Initiative for the reasons of empowering our women and giving them more roles in the governance of our country. I believe that it is only when women are adequately empowered that they can make more impact in the affairs of the nation and in the lives of the children who are the future of the country. We should not shy away from politics and other governance issues, for there lies the instruments for reforming and rebuilding our nation.
Step back here. You're fine. All right, thank you.
George Moore is the 30th January 2020.
The chairman, organizing committee of the event, and veteran broadcaster Alhaji Ande Shuago gave the goodwill message.
Express our very deep appreciation to the people we've invited and who have honored this occasion, particularly the chairman of the event, retired General IBM Haruna, a barrister, who came here 5 minutes. I was checking the time. He was here 5 minutes to 2 o'clock. And he has stayed with us, and others too who have been here. I want to thank our speakers. I thank Professor Onohu Yakub. I thank all the contributors who have made very important and very deep contributions about the problem of insecurity in Nigeria, governance, and climate change.
Convener of the event, Princess Anita Uwemi happily expressed her appreciation to all present or sent representatives.
We are really empowered. It's just that bad governance and whatever you know what to say is the problem we have. So I decided as a publisher, in a bid to contribute my own quota. This is the only thing I can offer to my country. Every year I gather professionals in a room like this to brainstorm towards the development of our country. Even when it dawned on me that it was a time for recalculation, I left the shores of this country to the United States of America to major in electronics. So when I got done, my friends over there got me jail. They wanted me to stay, they liked my company and all that. I told them, no, I am going back to my country because I believe I'm a stakeholder. Let me go back to health. All of us will not be running, like they said, Japan. All of us will not be running. We professionals should come here to be part of the development. So that's why I'm here. So every year, in a bid, like I said, to contribute my quota, I organize things like this. But what I normally do, I look for burning issues. Like you do know that security is a burning issue in our country. The moment you get it right, it's better for us. Because I remember the story of the man from the West that lived all his life abroad, came down here to invest. He's at a farm and he was killed in his farm. I mean, it's a godly situation. And the moment we begin to talk, begin to deliberate, begin to gather forums like this, better for us. I remember last year, 2020, when I had organized this kind of a thing. In the middle of the night, I was sleeping. Someone called me and said to me, I said, why are you calling me this order? I said, sorry, because somebody just gave me a call from Villa. Were you in Transcorp, Kano Hall precisely, recently for City Mail lecture? I said, yes. He said, because I saw you there. And why I'm calling you is that the deliberation there is making an impact. They're just discussing about it, so it gladdened my heart. I said, even if I'm not here, every year in a bid to contribute my own quota, I come here and organize this.
And that's our focus on the 18th edition of the City Mail International Magazine Lecture and Award Ceremony in NFONA, held at the Nikon Hilton, Abuja. This is Joshua Ishaya, thanking you for being